inspired solutions for America. This is the Sean Hannity Show.
Do you think that Sweden has a responsibility to adapt to the immigrants' culture coming in?
Definitely.
Should a woman, when they come here, dress, modestly, with pants and with sleeves? Is that important?
It is our culture.
If you come to Rinkeby, obviously everywhere in Sweden is a dress code,
I got a Swedish girlfriend. Sometimes I say we go to Rinkeby, he's scared.
Right.
He's scared.
Is it dangerous here sometimes?
Sometimes, yeah.
We found out exactly how dangerous when, while we were setting up a shoot at a neighboring location, we were approached by 5 men and told to leave. While my crew took off, I stayed to simply ask why we had to leave. Because I was still wired, we have the sound of what happened next. How come it's a problem to film here?
I don't want to be filmed.
I know, but why? Why?
I just don't want to.
Spawn, But why?
Let me see. Let me see.
I'm not filming anything. Look.
Show me what you got.
Let go of me.
Show me what you got.
Show me.
Show me you
I let go. I'll show you.
I don't want your phone. Show me.
Let go now. I was not the first person assaulted by gangs of immigrants, nor will I be the last. But women are taking the brunt of the explosion of violence across Sweden.
What we have is, first of all, a Swedish culture. Then we bring in, like last year, 190,000 people that come from a very different culture, a culture that isn't liberal, that has radically different views on women, on sexuality, on gender, on all of these things. There's an explosion.
Yeah, it will be clashes.
This is Rinkeby, a leafy northern suburb of Stockholm, also a completely Islamic area. The police have said this is a complete no-go for them and for journalists. Has there been an increase in violence and crime here in Sweden?
More violence and harder violence with guns and...
What type of weapons are you guys seeing on the streets?
You can see Kalashnikovs, hand grenades from the east, guns, handguns, everything you can find in Afghanistan, you can find here.
Doesn't Sweden have very strict gun laws?
For sure, and we get, all the time we get new laws about guns, tidied up more. I think it's good, but the violence increased anyway.
This is a former police station which had to be moved a couple of years ago. Now, the police will tell you that it simply became too unsafe for them to have a full-time presence here. Would you go as far as to say that these no-go areas are essentially states within a state?
Yeah, most of the no-go areas is like that.
Are there areas where if you're pursuing somebody, where you'll simply stop and not pursue them once they get into this no-go area?
Yeah. If the police is chasing another car for some kind of crime, if they reach what we call no-go areas, the police wouldn't go after it.
Do you see the violence really spreading across Sweden into the cities?
At least 1 or 2 times a week.
And let's say 5 years ago, how often would you say it was?
No.
3 times a year.
Really? The increase in this kind of crime is exponential.
I think we caught off guard. We didn't expect it to be so much increase.
All right, 24 now till the top of the hour. Toll-free telephone numbers 800-941-SEAN if you want to be a part of the program. That was our friend Ami Horowitz. The Daily Mail has printed out an article that Ami actually was punched and kicked and choked by 5 migrants because he went into a no-go zone in a Swedish city. But I was told no-go zones don't exist. Such things are not real. They don't exist in Paris, even though people I know have actually been there, and other places as well. Anyway, so he joins us now. Ami, tell us what happened.
Well, it was an incredible experience, obviously. I went there initially because...
By the way, before we get started, let my audience know you are insane. You're the same guy that got on a boat with Syrian refugees to infiltrate them. And what other nutty things have you done?
Oh, I interviewed Islamic Jihad, interviewed Hamas,
Yeah.
went to Venezuela recently.
Oh, yeah, and you stood outside the DNC with a picture, Trump is great. That too.
That may be my most dangerous stunt that I've ever done, actually.
It's probably true. So what happened?
So as many of I know you know, and maybe a lot of your listeners know, there has been an absolute explosion, epidemic of rape going on in Sweden, and it's been absolutely parallel to the increase in Syrian and other Islamic migrants into Sweden. They've actually taken in more per capita, more Islamic refugees than any Western country in the world, including Germany. Most people don't realize that. And hand in hand with that has been an increase in rape. And I went there to figure out what's going on. What I found out was not only is rape increasing exponentially, but violence in general. Weapons are being flooded into Sweden, despite, like you heard in the audio, despite the fact they have the strictest gun laws in all of Europe. And it was absolutely crazy. So I had to go to what they call, you asked the question. People are debating the existence of these places. I can tell you firsthand, they exist. We crossed that threshold. Within seconds, 5 guys jump on top of me and beat the living crap out of me.
We just played this. I mean, you really were getting punched. How bad were the injuries?
They were, thank God, nothing was broken. I was bruised up pretty badly. What happened was, when it really got scary, is after they were punching me and kicking me, and I realized nobody was going to help me. I was looking around, and people in the square were standing around and staring at me and laughing. I knew I had to do something for myself, so I took some of your ninja moves. And I was just able to just barely get to my knees. I grabbed the guy close to me. I punched him in the throat. They let go for a second. I ran. They took me down, and then he dragged me into a building. And that's why I thought, Sean, this is it. They're going to kill me here.
Ami, if you're going to do all this crazy stuff that you do, I've been training for 5 years. You need to train. You need to be able to protect yourself. And the little moves that I've shown you when you've been in studio, and one of our targets, or my targets in a fight is I'm going to go for your throat. And certainly you always have the option of just gouging their eyeballs out and whatever you need to do to defend yourself. But seriously, if you're going to do this crazy crap that you do, you need to learn to defend yourself.
You're right. You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. I look at you, Sensei. I look at you.
Yeah. Oh, great. I'm going to be your Sensei now. I'm only a brown belt. I'm getting my black belt. I'm working towards it. It's going to probably take me 2 more years.
But what's incredible, Sean, about this thing is you're right. When I interviewed Swedes about what's going on in Sweden, in their own country, the amount of self-denial that I came across was almost pathological. And that was maybe the most disturbing part of this whole thing.
Look, I mean, this is the problem. Remember when that Christmas, how many years ago was it? Was it 2 Christmases ago or 1?
When they took down the Christmas tree in Sweden?
No, when they had all these allegations of rape that started coming out, like one after another, there was this sort of, I guess it was in Germany at the time.
That was this past New Year's. That was this
past New Year's. And I'm thinking, okay, is anybody going to pay any attention to this? Anybody going to watch this? I mean, we're talking about dozens of people that are making the allegations. And there's Angela Merkel. Now all of a sudden, Angela Merkel saying, well, women can't wear full cover or burqa or hijab. They can't wear it now. And now she's under fire for that. But I mean, it's too little too late. You were there 2 years ago following the influx of people.
That's right. But here, the kicker, and of course, the takeaway from all of this is not, listen, let's be honest. I don't care about Sweden, okay? They're anti-Israel. A lot of them are anti-Semitic. The reality is I care about America. And I want to make damn sure that we don't repeat the same mistakes that Europe is making as today. In real time, we see Europe, the social and cultural upheaval that's happening there is happening today. I don't want to see a repeat of that here. That was the beginning of why Donald Trump was elected, to be honest with you. We don't want the Democrats allowing these Swedish refugees the Syrian refugees to come here. And the problem is that we're not learning our lesson. That's the issue. That's the takeaway from this whole thing, Sean.
Well, I give you a lot of credit. You have a lot of guts to go in there and do it. I think it is the takeaway. But even with Trump's victory, I mean, look, 10,000 in Michigan is not a lot of votes to win by. 24,000 in Wisconsin. It's substantive. It's a win. It's a big win. And 70,000 in Pennsylvania. All of this combined, a little over 100,000. And that's not a lot in terms of the American public that remains divided. But I think one of the most important part of his agenda, besides the economic agenda, is vetting refugees, number one, and number two, building the wall.
I mean, these things are the basic constructs of what you need for a society in America to close. If you don't have borders, if you don't have vetting, then your country is going to burn. I don't understand why the open border people, including Hillary Clinton, don't understand that. Is that without basic vetting, basic borders, that's the building blocks of any country. How could you go without it? It doesn't make any sense.
It doesn't make any sense. All right. Now, did your injuries heal?
Thank God, all healed up. I look as pretty as ever.
All right, with all due respect, you're a lot of things. Pretty is not one of them. I know, and I say that very affectionately. I mean, I think you're a guy that has a lot of guts, and you're tougher and braver than 99% of everybody in the media, but you're nuts, but you're not pretty. You're just not.
All right, a fact is a fact. I have to acknowledge that.
Exactly. I only tell the truth on the program.